What is up, everybody? Welcome to another awesome episode of Recliner Wrestling Review. I'm your host, Jared, here with my co-host, John. John, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. Ready to talk some wrestling?
Ready to talk some wrestling, huh? Have you watched any Rock matches lately?
At least 10.
Well, that's a start. I feel like I've watched more matches in preparation for this episode than I've watched in accumulation of all the other episodes that we've done so far. Holy cow. I smell what you're cooking.
You just been rocking out.
Oh, we're full of them today, brother.
Yeah. Bring it on.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
Good
so we're
stuff.
talking our top 10 favorite Rock matches. You've got your 10, I've got my 10, and we're going to break them down. Talk about them.
Break it down. While we break it down, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and also check out our other social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you could check out audio-only versions at Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Stitcher. You can also send an email if you've got any show ideas or topics you'd like to hear us discuss to reclinerwrestlingreview@gmail.com. John, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first on these top 10s? Should we
I'll start
hit
it.
each other's finishers and see who kicks out?
For top 10, my number 10 Rock match, I went with an older Rock match because as I was trying to put this all together, everything I had was older Rock, I felt. So I was like, well, what's one of those matches that kind of like made a big impact when he was younger? And we're going back to 1998 SummerSlam, him and Triple H in that ladder match with the yellow ladder, and that's what I always remembered. And it's just a fun for me to look back at that match, see a young Rock and a young Hunter. It was fun, gimmick match, but ladders everywhere, and Chyna plays her part in the finish, and Rock doesn't get a win there. So,
2 ladders. And that is actually one of my favorite ladder matches of all time because it's what is that, like the second maybe third of all ladder matches in WWF at the time. Let me back that up. For a pay-per-view event, because you had WrestleMania 10, you might have had one in between.
You had the SummerSlam one, and I felt like Brett and Shawn had one on like Superstars or something at one point.
So actually before and that's a whole, I mean, we can get into a ladder match episode, but that's actually where it started, was Bret Hart. A WWF ladder match was Bret Hart's idea. And so he and I think it was Shawn were working ladder matches and dark matches and on the road and whatnot, leading up to WrestleMania. And then the program goes with Shawn and Razor, and that's where the ladder match actually gets used. So, and I think that was a Pat Patterson call to use that ladder match, by the way, in that. So, but anyway, so number 10 for you is SummerSlam of '98 with the infamous yellow ladder.
Yeah,
very, very good match. I like how they actually work the psychology of a ladder match. You know, beat each other down and then start climbing. So
yeah.
And it's refreshing not to see 600 high spots in a match too. So that was cool. For myself,
if you look back, it's very different from the ladder matches we see now. I feel.
Gosh, yeah. It feels like a slower pace, but it's not like put you to sleep slow pace. It's methodical and it makes sense. So, for me, in my number 10 position, I've got SummerSlam from 2002, The Rock versus Brock Lesnar. Can't go wrong with Rock and Brock. For me, it made the list because it was an entirely different type of opponent for The Rock, to have to go against somebody that athletic and that big, and The Rock, got ragdolled around by Brock and sold for Brock really well. I thought it was just a different side of Brock that we hadn't seen before. I mean, I know he's worked matches with Big Show and that kind of thing, but it was still just like amped up another level. So
yeah, what I liked about this match was you said Brock was athletic. You forgot he's also fairly green at the time, and for Rock to work Brock at that time, and what was going on about that time? Was he going away to film Scorpion King? Is that what I remember?
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yep.
So for him to be generous and put the new guy up, I thought was really cool. So that's a good call.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So what do you got for number 9, John?
Was it the Deadly Game Tournament? No? Yeah. Deadly Game
Survivor Series,
Tournament.
1998.
Yeah, so this is one where, for me, like, this is essential Rock viewing because I put the whole tournament in on this because this is Survivor Series 1998. So we are 1 year removed from the Montreal Screwjob.
Right.
So Rock at this time, he wrestles Ken Shamrock, Undertaker, and then he gets Mankind in the main event. And if you ever watch Rock matches, like later on, he's always going for the sharpshooter.
Mm-hmm.
He rarely wins with it, but
Right.
at the Deadly Game Tournament, he won with the sharpshooter. Did Mankind submit? I don't know, but Vince told him to ring the bell, and yeah, that was a callback to the screw job. And
it was a callback, all right. I thought it was just cheap as all get out. I was not a fan.
But it turned Rock heel that night, and that was it for me. I was like, okay, this guy's a player. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember too. Remind me, and I'm totally just catching you off guard on this. Was that the era when the Union was together? Because the other names you mentioned, Shamrock and all them, those were all members of Union.
The Union, in my mind, was so brief. I don't even. I felt like, what was the Union, like 2 months, 3,
possibly
maybe 1 month.
Yeah. Possibly somewhere. I feel like
it would have been around that era, but I don't think it was going on at that time.
No, I think it was next year. I think it was in 99.
Yeah.
Very good. So for me, at the number 9 position, and I've been back and forth on a few spots on the higher end of the list here, but coming in at number 9 for me is Judgment Day 2000, The Rock versus Triple H in an Iron Man match. Good stuff. Shawn Michaels was the special guest referee. As with most Rock matches that you're going to find, there was a lot of shenanigans in this era, in the 98 to 2000 era. So you had a lot of run-ins and stuff. The thing that I really liked about this match is Shawn, through the whole match, called everything right down the middle and was very impartial, and which I thought was fantastic because you're expecting something, and yeah, I just thought it was great. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that's when we get the American Badass Undertaker, and yeah, not one of my brightest days.
I thought the debut of that character was kind of cool, coming in, just killing everybody. Shawn making the call to disqualify Rock and give Triple H the win. Whatever.
Right.
That could have been the finish to the match could have been better, but the debut was cool and the match is awesome. I put it at my number 8. So
it's definitely a great match, and like what you said too, when Taker comes out and just cleans house, like it's 10s all around. The thing that kind of bothered me, oddly enough, was commentary. As he's here is playing and all that, like it's just talk over all this instead of like lay back and like, oh, what is this going to be? Especially when it's like one of your most tenured guys in the company. So it just kind of was odd to me. But yeah, so also for you at number 8, there you go. Judgment Day 2000.
Stands the test of time for sure.
It really does. It's a great match. It's one of those that if you haven't watched ever or haven't seen in a long time, it's worth a rewatch. So that was your number 8 as well. For me, number 8, I've got No Way Out 2001, The Rock versus Kurt Angle. Let's see here. This match is so a great match. I thought that The Rock and Kurt Angle had great chemistry. But man, the finish of the match, it gets botched really bad. Thanks to Earl Hebner. And it was written in, I think, The Rock's book. I can't remember for sure. But anyway, and he was very upset. There you go. He was very upset about the fact that they had this great match, and then Earl botched the finish. He kind of won 2 and then just stopped counting. And they're like, what are you doing? Like, we just had this great match and the perfect finish. And so if you watch it back, he hit The Rock stands up and hits another rock bottom, looks right at Earl and says, now count to 3 or count the finish. And And so there's your 3 count, and woo! So there's your 3 count, and it ends up being okay. It's botched, but it's not as awful as it could have been because the positioning and stuff, things are a little more hidden. But yeah, it was a good match. It just wasn't their greatest, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
and was that Kurt's first main event?
it might have been. In fact, that was no, it wouldn't have been because Kurt was already the WWE champion at that point.
So it's 01 or 2000?
This is 01.
01, okay, cool.
Yeah. So The Rock gives 2 rock bottoms due to the botch, and then ends up winning the title. So, yep.
Good.
All right. So for number 7 for you, John.
It's number 7. It's not quite halfway, but I went with Halftime Heat.
I see what you did there, and I like it.
Yeah, terrible. But yeah, the Halftime Heat match, anyone who lived through this generation in 99, growing up, everybody was watching the Super Bowl. I mean, that's the American thing to do. And WWE had this idea to do Halftime Heat and The Rock and Mankind. And because the whole world's watching the Super Bowl, they fought in an empty arena. And something I will always remember,
Right.
the craziness of going through the empty arena, because were they in the ring at all? Just like a minute, maybe?
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah.
They started, in fact, I think they started out in the ring.
Okay. Well, they battle through the whole arena, and it's just this wacky finish where Mankind gets on a forklift and starts to push it, and I think the announcers are yelling, "He's gonna run him over!" and he lowers the forklift with a pallet and a bunch of kegs of beer or something.
Yep.
On top of Rock, and then Foley gets over and 1, 2, 3, and that's a cool finish. It was fun, and it's iconic. It's one of those matches where they kill each other throughout, and yeah. When I think of Rock matches, that's one that always sticks out.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. Listen to all the details that you're able to just pop off the top of your head. That's how memorable of a match that was. So I thought it was really good, really well done. Let's see here. For me, on the number 7 spot, I've got Backlash from 1999, The Rock versus Stone Cold in a no holds barred match. And you talk about shenanigans. This one was chock full of shenanigans. We had Shane McMahon as a special guest referee. Vince comes out and is holding the Smoke and Skull belt. Long story short, there's a back and forth, and Shane does one of the best. He's like, "Come at me," and so he gets clocked by Vince with the belt, and just really good stuff. There's shenanigans all around, and just a really, really awesome match. The crowd is so into this. Austin is like peak Austin, in my opinion, as far as just the ruthlessness and the striving to win and beat the forces that are against him kind of thing. It was just a fantastic pay-per-view main event. So that's what I've got for number 7. John, where are you at for number 6?
Great choice. I need to go watch that back.
It's really, really a good match. It'll if you allow it to, and you escape with it, it'll give you goosebumps in multiple spots. It's good stuff.
Rock and Austin, it was always magic.
Yeah.
My next one, what are we at? 7?
Number 6.
6. Oh, math. Whatever. Yeah. Rock versus Cena 2. Okay.
There you go.
This is the second one.
Twice in a lifetime.
This is the twice in a lifetime. I loved it. I love both of them. This is the second one, and this one's the one in New York. This is the one where Cena goes up.
Okay.
And leading up to this, I went back and watched Rock vs. Punk at Rumble, trying to get ready for this, watch as much Rock as I could. And I really enjoyed that match, but I didn't think it made the top 10. But then I watched the Mania match, and even though Rock loses, there's so much emotion in it, and the story Rock and Cena told over that basically 2-year period. They had 2 matches in 2 years.
Right.
It was a big deal for me. I really liked it. and that's
Yeah,
why
it's
number
weird because there wasn't a
two.
lot of stuff in between, but it's told, like you said, a 2-year story
Yeah,
through just 2 matches. So that was
so
really cool.
a couple promos and a lot of social media, and it was a unique way to do it.
Yeah. Was it 1 or 2 that they were doing the where Rock was taking shots about Fruity Pebbles and all that kind of stuff? Was that 1?
That's one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember
Yeah.
for sure. But it was good stuff. I mean, it started out, kind of topical like that, and then it went deep with some good psychology. I'll fully disclose neither of those matches are on my top 10 for The Rock, but they probably would be on my top 10 for John Cena. Meaning that I feel like Rock had better matches with other people,
Okay.
told better stories, but nothing to take away from those 2 matches because I did think they were good matches. So, in my number, let's see here, number 5 position, I think is where we are. I've got No Mercy 2000, The Rock versus Kurt Angle in a no DQ match. Now, this was fantastic.
Is that 2 in a row? You went Rock and Kurt? Or
No,
no. Yeah,
no.
two second on the list.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. I had in the number 8 position, No Way Out 2001. So in the number 5 position, No Mercy 2000. This one did not have a botched finish. This is one of the first big matches between the two of them. And it's holy cow, like what we were talking about earlier with Rock and Brock. Rock and Angle, when they first met, it was like, my goodness. You thought that The Rock was all show and just, these flashy moves and these simple moves with an elbow drop and a rock bottom and stuff, but it was like they were legit wrestling, and it was really, really entertaining. So yeah, that's and a no DQ match. You and I talked before we hit record, and a lot of the matches on my list, for whatever reason, have a lot of gimmicks, have a lot of no DQs and that kind of stuff. So whether that's coincidence or not, I don't know, but it is what it is. So it looks like for your number, oh, did I do that right? Yeah. All right.
I don't know.
For your number
Yeah.
5, we've got WrestleMania 28.
28,
The Rock,
yeah.
John Cena.
Playing off that Rock and Cena story, I talked about how much I liked it. You mentioned the Fruity Pebble thing.
Right.
This was once in a lifetime. Cena challenges The Rock a year before to have a match, and it's at this match. Going into it, the first one, I was 100% Cena's going to win. Rock's gonna put over the new guy, whatever. Right. And when Rock won, I jumped out of my chair, out of my seat. Just what? That really happened?
Right. Out of nowhere. Yeah.
I just thought it was so cool, and I thought the match they told was great. But out of the 2 Cena matches for Rock, this was the one I really loved. And
yeah,
again, it sets up for that Rock Cena 2 for the story of Cena's had a horrible year. He lost to Rock at this match, and he's got to get it back and have another match with him. So I just thought it was really cool, really interesting. And you have 2 Angle matches. I have 2 Cena matches. So yeah, kind of cool. Yep. Different list.
It is kind of cool. Yep. It makes for not only a good episode of this, of Recliner Wrestling Review, but it just shows the different tastes that not only that we enjoyed, but that The Rock was able to kind of mold what he was doing in the ring and stuff to tell different types of stories. So I thought that was really well done on his part. So coming in for me at the number 4 position, we've got WrestleMania 15, The Rock versus Stone Cold in a no DQ match. So obviously this is Rock and Austin 1. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was great. I mean, how can you top the first, right? I thought that was magic.
My least favorite of their 3 Mania matches.
You tell me why. I find that so interesting.
Because I love the other 2 that much more. I don't know. 15 was a time I wasn't really watching, and I didn't watch 15 live. And watching it back years later, I'm like, it's good. The other 2 were better.
Right. It's kind of like either watching a movie trilogy or reading a book trilogy. If you've read 2 and 3, like it kind of stinks to go back to 1. I get that. Yeah. I get that. Okay, so going on from your two Cena matches, it looks like there you go.
Brother.
So in the number 4 position for John, WrestleMania 18, The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. Brother.
Yeah. I mean, what do you say about this? If you're a wrestling fan, you've probably watched this 20 times.
Yeah.
They just had to stand there. And the crowd was losing their mind.
Yeah. And the double turn, that's what's always interesting to me. And just a time of standing there looking each other eye to eye. It's like they're not saying a word and they're figuring it out. Like, okay, we need to flip roles here. It's awesome. It's great work. It's one of those things too. It's been talked about, like, to watch it with no commentary, and it's still a magical match. Just watching it, but to watch it with the sound on is like next level stuff.
And I would argue, I don't know that it is great work. It's a great match, but the crowd is popping at the wrong time.
Right.
When you go back and watch that, Hogan's doing his heel stuff, and the crowd's going crazy.
Yes.
And Rock's getting his comeback, and they're booing him out of the building.
Yeah.
So it's just really cool. The crowd reaction, the way they interacted, the way they played everything up, and to have the foresight to say, maybe Toronto's not going to boo you, Hogan.
Right.
Let's send Hall and Nash out there afterwards, have them do some special teams. We'll have them turn on you, and Rock will come back, make the save, and you do the pose down at the end. So cool. I mean, it is
good stuff, man. Icon versus icon.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
Like 19 years ago, and it's still just a crazy awesome match to watch.
Isn't that crazy to think it's already that long ago?
Yeah,
I hate math.
yeah.
Oh man. Well, surprise, surprise, coming in for me at the number 3 position. It's also The Rock versus Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 18. Yeah, like we just said. I mean, you stand there for a good 2 to 3 minutes, and the crowd's going banana. You can't say it plural, by the way, because Gorilla Monsoon. But it's just so good, and like you said too, just the magic of them trying to figure out in the middle of the match, like, how come I'm doing all this heel stuff and it's not working? It's just good, and that's what I meant by good work. I didn't mean like, that's a good leg drop, or that's a good body slam. That's good working with each other to try and figure that out on the fly. So
fantastic.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It looks like your number 3.
Yeah. This one's not on your list, correct?
No, it is not. It did not make the list. In the number 3 position for John, No Mercy 2001, The Rock versus Chris Jericho.
There was something about Rock and Jericho I just loved. I know they had a match at, I think, Insurrection and Royal Rumble. This is a match where, like, they just didn't get along. Like, it felt like Rock didn't like Jericho or something. And
yeah, that's true.
It made for great wrestling. And this is the match where Jericho wins the WCW title and finally wins the big one. And I just remember watching it and seeing
was
Rock.
Was it WCW, or that was the Undisputed, actually, wasn't it?
WCW.
No? Oh, okay.
Yeah. That would have been like October of 01, and Vengeance, I think, is in December, and that's when he unifies them.
That's right.
Yeah. And they wrestled there at Vengeance too. So I mean, they got great chemistry together.
Yeah.
And this match, I just remember Rock hitting that rock bottom, lifting Jericho up, and going through the announce table. And I know he's done it a bunch, but like, it felt great. It was good to see.
Yeah, it was very satisfying.
Stephanie comes out for the finish, and Jericho was trying out a new finisher at the time, and he hits the breakdown. But
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah,
that full Nelson face slam looking thing.
Yeah,
and he does it on the chair, and afterwards, Rock's like still not vibing with Jericho. He hands him the chair. Is kind of like all right, you got me tonight, and
right.
It is still one of my favorite matches and ever, and just not just Rock matches, but I do love that match.
Yeah, no, that's a good one for sure. You mentioned Stephanie, and that reminded me of whenever I was talking about No Mercy from the year 2000 as my number 5 pick. Stephanie was, if I've got my timeline right, that was also, wasn't that the back and forth with Stephanie and Angle, and then Stephanie and Hunter, and they're trying to figure out, where does Triangle end up, kind of thing, because Stephanie ended up getting involved in that match too. So, which I think she's entirely underrated for a lot of the stuff that she did in that era. We could do an entire episode on Stephanie for sure. But all right,
Okay.
so it looks like for my number 2 pick, we've got the Royal Rumble 1999, The Rock versus Mankind in an I Quit match. Holy cow. Holy brutal cow, Batman.
Is this the handcuffs?
This is the handcuffs and the like 17 chair shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is beyond the mat. This is the whole thing. Just, oh my God. And of course, it goes without saying, you'll never see anything like this in WWE again. we've come too far and learned too much since then. But wow, man, just what a match. What an absolute, I mean, you talk about giving it your all. I don't think they had anything left to give. It was just
need to edit my list. I forgot about this one. I knew it. I couldn't remember what match had the handcuffs, and you're the research guy, and I wasn't feeling it.
So here's what's really funny, and I want to make sure that I spend a couple minutes and talk about this, is we both have Halftime Heat on our list, maybe in different spots, but they're both ranked, kind of in the middle-ish, as being a very memorable match. This happens like 2 weeks later, or had happened 2 weeks before, kind of thing, all in the same time span, and like to have 2 standout matches that are that memorable. Holy cow, man. It's the chemistry between Rock and Mankind is through the roof, in my opinion. Everybody talks about Rock and Steve, but man, Mick is definitely deserving of being in that conversation as well. So let's go to your number 2, John.
Number 2, because 2 is better than 1. WrestleMania 17, The Rock versus Stone Cold. The main event of WrestleMania 17. This is where Austin went heel and went ham on Rock with all the chair shots there too.
Yep.
And this is, people argue WrestleMania 17 is the best WrestleMania, and this has got to be the best main event. So I put it at number 2. I love the match. I was there live. It was cool. It was awesome.
I forgot that you went to that. Brother.
Yeah. But yeah, that is a fantastic match. And, that whole pay-per-view is just off the charts. So, yeah. Rock Austin 2, WrestleMania 17.
Good stuff, man. It's a great match. So I'm going to let you take the wheel on this, John. I know you've got probably some honorable mentions that you'd like to mention. I dropped the ball. So I'm interested to hear your honorable mentions, sir.
Well, the one that kind of stood out to me would have been, let's see, WrestleMania 20. 20 with Rock and Sock Connection going against Evolution, Triple H, and Randy, I believe.
That's right.
And just having Flair and Rock in the same ring, that was a super cool, super special moment, but it's also a tag match. I think if it would have been Rock and Flair one-on-one, I can't, my mind can't even handle that. Like, I just think that sounds awesome.
That's the potential of Rock and Hogan all over again. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, Rock, you came out with a couple I didn't think of for honorable mentions. I had the Brock one in my head for an honorable mention.
Yeah.
I'm struggling, but that tag match was one. I went back and watched the Royal Rumble 01 to get ready for this, because that's the one Rock wins.
Oh, yeah.
And, it didn't make the list, but I was like, I felt like Rock winning the Rumble. I thought it was a cool finish to have him and Big Show go out together and set up for the 4-way pretty well. But I was like, not good enough for the top 10. But,
Yeah.
Worth noting,
like
he wins a Rumble.
Right. This is, like I said, I kind of dropped the ball on honorable mentions as far as homework for myself. But I know a lot of people rank highly. Also, there was a Survivor Series match that I think it was like Steve and Kane. I mean, it was a bunch of like A and B players, and it ended up everybody eliminated each other except for at the end it was Rock and Steve. And so everybody talks about like that 10 minutes that they go one-on-one as an honorable mention as well. I can't.
Okay.
I want to say that might have been Survivor Series 2000. I can't remember for sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
Don't know either. All right. So I guess I will go ahead with my number one. WrestleMania 17, The Rock versus Stone Cold in a no DQ match.
You put
Yeah,
that at
for
number
me it
one.
was the best.
Good.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and you're gonna yell at me for my number one in a minute, but yeah,
I will, and I'll tell you why. But now I will say I obviously am not a fan of the Steve heel turn, but I was open to it at the time. So I try to keep that in mind. Like even though I have the advantage of retrospect now, at the time I was like, oh, this could be really cool. This could be really good. And so at that moment, whenever Steve turned heel, I thought, oh, this is.
Sorry.
Wow. I smell what you're cooking.
So Steve went heel.
Smells like crap. Monkey crap. All right. Yeah. So with that being said, John, what is your number one pick?
You know, we had Rock 1, we had Rock 2. But sometimes you got to make a movie about things. When Rock Goes Hollywood, that was awesome stuff. You talk about honorable mentions. We were like struggling to get a few. He has that match with Goldberg, which should be talked about because it's like two icons coming at. He had that match with Hurricane, which was just awesome. People still talk about
Hurricane.
Made
Straight
Hurricane.
In one segment, made Hurricane.
Talking about this, Hollywood Rock versus Austin at 19. If we're talking Rock matches, the level of charisma was off the charts. I loved it. I thought Rock wearing the vest, strutting around was great.
Oh,
it was awesome.
So this is the time when I was like, I went from like being a Rock guy to like loathing the Rock. Like, what a sellout! What a piece of crap! The whole get out in the middle of the match and grab your bottle of water and get on commentary, and I'm like, come on, wrestle, man! This is the main event. This is a title. Like, take it serious. It drove me nuts.
He was always the most charismatic guy, and then he turned that up. The Rock concerts,
also
off the charts.
Also, can we talk about the amount of heat he got with me for ripping a perfectly good vest?
yeah. Stuff happens. But yeah, I love that. And the reason I went with that at number one, and this is where you're going to really be annoyed. I felt like my list of Rock matches, I was looking at it and I go, he lost 6 matches on this list that I put on, or that I made up. I think he's got to go over and get the win in the last match. So for number one,
John, forever the storyteller.
Because he gets the win, that's why it's my number one Rock match. Charisma was at a 10. The story was great. When you watch the, I don't know, WWE 24 or the documentary about 19 or whatever, you get that little part where he's sitting in the ring with Rock or with Austin. He's like, get out of here, Earl, and tells Austin he loves him. Like, that's cool stuff.
Yeah, and then gives him the ring, even though he's just won. Yeah.
And it's Austin's last match. It's just a really cool moment, and you don't know it's Austin's last match at the time, but I thought it's a really fitting bookend, and to have Rock be the guy to do it, I thought was really cool.
So did it bother you for them not to give Steve like a big farewell kind of thing, like what we saw at 24 with Ric Flair?
No, because that's not Steve. Steve didn't want that. I don't think Flair wanted it either, but it's Ric Flair.
Well, and so that's the thing. So to break it down. I think that Rick didn't want it because he didn't want the finality. He didn't want to. Okay, well now I can't. For Steve, he did it because he was that big of a team player. Had they said, hey, this is Stone Cold Steve Austin's last match, like that buy rate would have been through the roof. But then what about after that? It would have tanked. So he took one for the team. So I say that because it's like, I can't really say that Steve may not have wanted it. He probably didn't, to be totally fair. But there might have been a sliver of him that, man, hey, as much blood, sweat, and tears as I put in this company, it'd be nice to get, some recognition, especially compared to what they do now, for send-offs and stuff. But like you said, that's just not Steve's style.
The other thing is, like, Steve was on top for 6 years, 5 years.
Right.
Flair was on top for 30.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
you're right. There's a major difference.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's my number one. I loved it, and Hollywood Rock. I don't know. Some people love it. Some people hate it.
Not a fan. I'm a fan of babyface Rock more than heel Rock. I'm a fan of heel Rock from the Nation and Domination era. Anything after that he was heel, wasn't a fan.
And I did want to put one more cap on the Rock. Anything on my list you should have added, or anything you would have kicked off in a heartbeat?
Well, like I said,
you don't like those Cena matches.
I'm not a big fan of Cena matches, but like I said, to be fair, I would probably at least one of those would end up on a top 10 of Cena's matches. But I just there's too many good Rock matches for me to put Cena on there.
If we did a top 20, would any of mine not been there?
No, I don't think so.
You would have kept 19 in the top 20?
Probably so, to be honest. And
I regret
the same with the Jericho match, even though I hated Jericho at that time, not because he's a heel, because I thought he was a sloppy worker. But we'll get into all that for a Jericho episode.
That's an 8-hour 4-parter.
Oh, it's it's at least 1,001 minutes.
1,003 or 1,004. He's got one more hold than Malenko.
All right, there you go. Yeah. See? Yeah. All right, go ahead and drop your finisher on that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Share with your friends, and we will see you next week as we do another episode of Recliner Wrestling Review. John, good to see you again. We'll see you next week.
See ya.